When everything falls apart, and you don't understand why there are days when it seems like the entire universe has decided to conspire against you. Nothing works out. Doors close, people walk away, plans fall apart, and you, in the midst of the chaos, ask yourself, why is this happening to me? But the sky has a language that doesn't shout. It whispers, and sometimes, the collapse is the only way to get you out of a place you should never be. What feels like loss is deliverance. What feels like an end is a new beginning. What feels like punishment is care. You don't see it now, but there's a divine engineering behind the collapse, a silent force that's dismantling what no longer serves you, to make room for what truly belongs to you. The sky doesn't abandon you, it repositions you. And maybe, just maybe, this chaos is the clearest proof that the sky is working in your favor. Asterisk the silence before the miracle. Have you ever noticed how before something extraordinary happens, everything seems silent? It's as if the universe holds its breath. No answer comes. No sign appears. Only emptiness. Only silence. But heaven works in silence. It doesn't need to make a fuss. While you think nothing is happening, everything is being aligned behind the scenes. People are being moved. Doors are being unlocked. Paths are being prepared. Silence isn't absence, it's construction. It's the interval between the request and the answer, between the seed and the fruit, between the cry and the miracle. So, if everything is too quiet, maybe it's because heaven is about to surprise you. Asterisk the door that closed saved you from something greater. You were frustrated, angry, maybe even disbelieving. That opportunity seemed perfect. That relationship seemed promising. That door seemed right, but it closed. Without warning, without explanation. And you thought it was rejection, that it was punishment, that it was bad luck. But heaven sees what you don't. It sees beyond appearances, beyond the present. And sometimes, the door that closes is the quietest way of protecting you, of freeing you from something that would harm you, of preventing you from entering a place where you would lose yourself. You don't know what was on the other side, but heaven knows. And if it closed, it's because there's something better, something more aligned, something that won't hurt you. It will lift you up. The door that closed was the answer you didn't know you needed. Asterisk the weight that taught you to trust. You asked, you believed, you did everything right, but nothing happened. And time passed, and doubt crept in, and you considered giving up. But heaven doesn't work by its clock, it works on its own time. And sometimes, what seems like a delay is just maturation. It's just the necessary interval for you to be ready, for the stage to be set, for everything to fall into place. Waiting isn't a punishment, it's an invitation to trust, even without seeing, to continue, even without understanding, to believe, even without guarantees, because those who learn to trust in silence are ready to receive the miracle. Asterisk the encounter that seemed like chance, but was actually destiny. You were in the right place at the wrong time. More, at least you thought so. A coffee you almost didn't go to. A conversation that started by chance. A glance that met yours without warning. And suddenly, something changed. The sky has a curious way of working. It disguises destiny as coincidence. It camouflages purpose in unexpected encounters, and when you least expect it, someone enters your life with a missing piece, with an answer you didn't even know you were looking for. It wasn't luck, it wasn't chance, it was alignment, it was purpose. It was the sky showing you that it's watching your steps and that sometimes, what you need comes as a surprise. Because when the sky wants to reach you, it uses people as bridges. Asterisk the pain that pushed you toward your purpose. You didn't want to go through this. You didn't ask for it, you didn't expect it, but it happened. The pain arrived without warning, without a manual, without anesthesia. And you thought you couldn't bear it. But heaven has a strange way of revealing purpose. It uses pain as a compass, because it's at rock bottom that you discover the strength you never knew you had. It's in loss that you find what truly matters. It's in the wound that you learn to heal others. Pain didn't come to destroy you, it came to awaken you, to take you off autopilot, to remind you that you have a greater mission than survival. You came to transform. And sometimes, heaven allows pain to push you exactly where you're supposed to be. Asterisk the time that seemed lost, but was actually preparation. You looked back and saw months, maybe years, that seemed in vain. Projects that didn't work out. Relationships that didn't last. Paths that led nowhere. And the feeling was clear. I wasted time. But heaven wastes nothing. Not the days you only cried. Not the cycles that ended without explanation. Not the moments when you thought you were standing still. Because, in truth, you were being prepared. Each experience shaped you. Each frustration taught you. Each weight strengthened you. And now, you carry tools that only time gave you. Tools that will make sense when the right door opens. Time wasn't wasted. It was an investment. And heaven was working. Even when you thought you were standing still. Asterisk, the answer that came from where you least expected. I too were searching everywhere. You tried obvious paths. You consulted experienced people. You made logical plans. But nothing worked. And when all hope was lost, the answer came from an unlikely place. from an unexpected person, from a situation you would never have considered. Heaven has a subtle sense of humor. It likes to surprise. It likes to show that it's not through force, nor control, nor logic. It's through faith, through surrender, through openness to the unexpected. The answer didn't come as you wanted, but it came as you needed. And that's a clear sign that heaven is paying attention, that it doesn't just listen, it acts. And it acts in ways you could never have predicted. Because when you let go of control, heaven takes over. Asterisk the no that saved you from a wrong path. You wanted it so badly. You fought, you insisted, you prayed for it to work out. But the answer was clear, no. And you felt rejected, frustrated, maybe even betrayed by your own faith. But heaven doesn't say no out of cruelty, it says no out of love. Because it knows what you don't yet know. It sees the end of the path you've only just begun. And if it stopped you from following it, it's because there was something ahead that would divert you, hurt you, or make you forget who you are. The no was protection. It was guidance. It was care disguised as frustration. In one day, you'll look back and be thankful it didn't work out. Asterisk, the intuition that guided you without logical explanation. You couldn't explain it. You had no proof. You had no guarantees. But something inside, you said, go this way. And against all evidence, against all advice, against all logic, you did. Intuition is heaven's most subtle language. It's as if it placed an invisible GPS within you, an impulse that doesn't shout, but insists. That doesn't show you the entire path, but illuminates the next step. And when you follow that inner voice, something magical happens. Things align, doors open, answers arrive, and you realize you weren't alone. You were being guided, because heaven doesn't need to prove anything. It just needs you to trust what you feel. Asterisk, the new beginning that felt like an end. You saw everything crumble. The plan, the relationship, the dream. And in that moment, it seemed final. It seemed like there was no way out. That the end had arrived. With it, the emptiness. But heaven has a delicate way of starting over. It disguises the beginning as an ending. Because sometimes, cycles need to close to make room for the new. You need to lose what was comfortable to find what is true. You need to die inside to be reborn with purpose. The end wasn't the end. It was a transition. It was an impulse. It was the exact point where heaven decided to reposition you. And today, if you look closely, you'll realize that moment that seemed like your worst was the beginning of your best. Asterisk, the coincidence that made you look up. You were distracted, going about your day. And then, something happened. A phrase someone said. A song that played. A number that repeated itself. A sign that seemed small, but gave you goosebumps. Coincidence? Maybe. But the sky has a poetic way of communicating. It uses details. It uses subtleties. It uses things that only you will notice. Because the sign doesn't need to convince the world. It just needs to touch your heart. And when you start noticing these coincidences, something changes. You start looking up. You start trusting more. You realize you're being guided. Even if you don't understand everything, because the sky speaks to those who are willing to listen. Even if it's by chance. The emptiness that taught you to fill with faith, you tried to fill it with distractions, with people, with goals. But nothing worked. The emptiness remained there, silent, uncomfortable, deep, and you thought it was a sign of weakness, of error, of lack. But heaven uses emptiness as an invitation to look within, to stop searching outside for what can only be found within, because it is in the silence of the soul that faith begins to speak. It is in the absence of answers that trust is strengthened. It is in lack that you discover presence. The emptiness didn't come to punish you, it came to teach you, to remind you that there is something greater sustaining everything even when you don't see it, don't feel it, don't understand it, because sometimes heaven empties you, just to fill you with faith. Asterisk, the message that arrived at just the right moment. You were at your limit, tired, out of strength, about to give up, and then, it arrived. A message, an audio message, a sentence, maybe from someone who didn't even know what you were going through, but the words came as healing, as an answer, as a hug. Heaven has surgical precision. It sends signals at just the right moment, neither before nor after. And just when you're about to let it all out, it reaches you. Sometimes through a friend, sometimes through a stranger, sometimes through a text that appears out of nowhere. It wasn't a coincidence, it was care. It was heaven saying, I'm here, I see you, I haven't left you. Because when you need it most, heaven always finds a way to remind you that you're not alone. Asterisk, the silent proof that only the heart recognizes. There was no sign in the sky. There was no audible voice. There was no spectacular miracle. But there was something you can't explain, but you feel, a peace that arrived without reason, a certainty born in the midst of doubt, a strength that appeared when you thought you had none left. This is the most subtle and perhaps the most powerful proof that heaven is working in your favor, because it didn't come from outside, it came from within, and only the heart can recognize it. It's as if heaven were saying, you don't need to see, you just need to feel. And when you feel it, there's no more room for fear, only for faith.